Speed limits are nothing new. The first maximum speed limits were introduced in the UK in 1861. 10 miles per hour on open roads in towns, 2 miles per hour on presumably not open roads, and 4 miles per hour in rural areas. A man with a red flag or lantern had to walk 60 yards ahead of any self-propelled vehicle and warn other road users of their oncoming approach. The requirement for an escort was removed in 1896, and the limit was then increased to 14 miles per hour. In 1903, the speed limit was increased to 20 miles per hour, and that stood until 1931, when all existing limits were abolished and a new system was introduced. In 1934, the 30 miles per hour speed limit in built-up areas, that stands to this day, became law and brought about an 11% decrease in road fatalities at the time. What we're looking to do now is get back to that 20 miles per hour limit, certainly in Southend, that was introduced in 1903. Speed significantly increases the chance of being injured in a collision, and likewise the risk of death for vulnerable road users hit by cars increases as speed increases. There is an 8% risk of fatality for an impact at 30 miles an hour, and this drops to 1.5% at 20 miles per hour, meaning that 10 mile an hour reduction in speed means you're over 5 times less likely to die if you're hit by a car at that speed. Unsurprisingly, the majority of pedestrian casualties are in built-up areas. After all, that's where you find most pedestrians. Southend, of course, is a densely populated town with a lot of roads where driving above 20 miles per hour is either impossible or dangerous. Many of the residential roads are quite narrow and often lined on both sides with parked cars. We already have 13 20 miles an hour limits zones, which include traffic calming measures like speed bumps, and 5 roads with 20 mile per hour limits which are just signs only. It would increase compliance with the speed limit if it were uniformly applied. So rather than wondering whether you're in a 20 or a 30, you know you're in a 20, and so you're always going to drive slower. And so, it would be habit forming. People would inevitably drive slower because they're always sticking to that 20 mile an hour limit in the town. The overall impact on car journey times isn't that great. 69% of all car journeys are under 5 miles, and it takes 10 minutes to drive 5 miles at 30 miles per hour, and only 5 minutes more at 20. Real-world journey times, of course, wouldn't even be extended by this much, because you have waiting time at crossings and traffic lights. That would remain the same, and you don't maintain the speed limit continually while you're driving anyway. Making Southend's roads safer through a reduction in speed limit would encourage more people to walk or cycle on short journeys, and this would have the effect of reducing the amount of traffic on our roads, reduce greenhouse gas emissions, pollution, noise and congestion, and make the town a nicer place to live. Because people would be getting more exercise from walking and cycling, it would improve their health, as, of course, would the reduction in pollution. It would also have the effect of making it quicker and easier to get in and out of the town by car when making longer journeys, and might even increase tourism in the town, as people from outside realise that it's actually a bit easier to get in because you're not sitting in so great queues of traffic. The good news here is that an in-depth scrutiny report on 20 mile per hour speed limits in residential streets was put to the Council Cabinet on the 8th of November, and it was accepted. Councillors Paul Van Looy, Mike Stafford and Martin Terry are all supportive of the proposal. However, not everyone is supportive. Councillor Anne Holland recently said that she thought 20 mile per hour zones might lead to more crashes, despite the fact that evidence demonstrates the opposite. An example of post-truth politics if ever there was one. The report recommends that the Council wait for the results of a study by the Department for Transport into the effectiveness of 20 mile per hour schemes, which will be published next year. And once this happens, I suggest that the Green Party should back the proposal and encourage residents to write to the Council in support of the idea.
4 minutes 20 seconds.
Brilliant. Questions and points for Denis, please. Hand up over. Councillor Sarah.
Have you got like a format of what you want written to the council that we could copy or put in our own words?
Not yet, but that's obviously something that we can put together. As I say, the general idea of putting 20 mile per hour limits across the town has been proposed within the council, and they're considering it. It's now a question of waiting for the Department for Transport report, so they've got all the evidence, and basically we just need to keep an eye out during 2017 for when that happens, and we can then develop the wording and put it out.
Simon and then the lady at the back.
I think that in the sense of the Green Party involvement, I think since next year we're going to be involved in a tiny little bit of county council business, but no actual election from the local authority. I think it's time now for us to show our hand and to actually go out and start actively campaigning. This was one of the biggest issues that came up to me on doorsteps, particularly in built-up areas, was people wanted traffic calming.
Yeah.
We need to go and knock on people's doors, we need to show them how to contact the council, we need to make sure that this is a green initiative, it's not stolen away from us by other people. I noticed yesterday that Julian Ware Lane was wearing a Tufty Club badge that said Stop, Look and Listen on it. Now Julian for many, many years has been against traffic calming for some strange reason of his own. I think it's personal vendetta against John. But, my actual belief is that even people as hard-bitten as Julian Ware Lane must have seen the number of accidents that happen on Prittlewell Chase, which has 5 schools on it, a hospital, a fire station, and still they refuse to put any traffic calming cameras up that road. It's a very, very inexpensive measure to prevent things like the cycle accident that me and my voice saw as I was picking up from school. Fortunately not a fatality, but it was pretty horrible to watch. And this was at low speed in tea time traffic. Now I think that we need to get behind that campaign, and if anybody spots any other campaigns, what we need to do is start putting out generic leaflets in where we're actively pushing these local campaigns. Good. Stop getting involved in any activity where we're fighting other parties, forget that. Let the Labour Party fight itself, tear itself apart, let the UKIP go for the Labour vote. We'll just go for everybody else's vote while they're arguing amongst themselves.
Okay. Denis, there's quite a few points there, but do you want to respond? I must come to the lady here.
Yeah, I think what you're saying makes perfect sense. I think there's an opportunity here for us to be part of something that the council is already working on, and it's not often that we get that opportunity. It's something that we can get right behind and support, and if we can demonstrate that the people of the town actually want this, hopefully we can get it implemented in the next couple of years.
A much better town.
The one other thing I wanted to mention regarding traffic calming, obviously there is a cost involved to that, and I think the easy approach is to say, we set the limit at 20 miles per hour across the town as a starting point, and individual traffic calming measures can be introduced where they're needed, but the fact that we're telling everyone that it's a 20 mile per hour limit across the borough sends a very powerful message which will hopefully improve people's driving.
It works quite well in Brighton.
Okay.
And Islington, of course.
And Islington.
Yeah. I'm Liz, I'm with the Heckler. Your point about improving safety, does that involve also compulsory MOT tests for drivers, their vision and their general health? And does it mean that people who mount pavements because their eyesight is poor and reactions are very slow, that they get accused of manslaughter rather than simply dangerous driving? Would you combine the two, or is it purely the speed?
Well, I think this is a Southend specific proposal about speed limits. So, and all of the things you've said make sense and should be implemented, and I think I could happily get behind that. But that I think is something for national policy rather than specifically Southend Council. So it's not something that could be tackled with this specific project, which is just about speed limits.
Yeah. The government has just recently announced it's going to increase the penalties for causing death by dangerous driving to make the penalties equivalent to causing killing by manslaughter. So it is making more likely that people could be sent to prison for longer for killing somebody due to gross negligence.
But would the Green Party be interested in compulsory health checks?
Yes, we are. We do. It's part of our policy. If we were in government, that would be policy tomorrow. We want to reduce the number of dangerous people on the streets anyway.
Yeah.
That's been part of our transport policy for nearly 15 years.
Good, good. Right, well, thank you very much indeed, Denis. That's absolutely superb.